couple years ago, I thought Sonic Forces looked pretty good. That's the entire joke. I honestly can't believe I was actually looking forward to this thing. The initial reveal back in 2016 made it look so damn cool. The return of the boost gameplay from Unleashed Colors and Generations, a custom character creator, would appear to be a more intense and serious style of plotline similar to older 3D Sonic games. Classic Sonic again for some reason? Okay, that part was odd, but the rest looked pretty sweet in my opinion. The promise of a fourth game in the boost style got me hyped. Too bad it sucked. I haven't played a lot of the more infamously terrible Sonic games. I never played Rise of Lyric, Labyrinth, Drift, R, Shadow, Secret Rings, none of them. But I'm at least willing to give the benefit of the doubt that Forces is far from being the worst thing to ever come out of the franchise. The thing with Forces, though, is that it just kinda hurts me with its thoroughly unimpressive, disappointing mediocrity. I'm fairly certain there are people out there who do like this game, and if you do, that's perfectly fine. I'm not gonna be that one dickweed that trashes on people for disagreeing with me about a fucking video game. The internet needs another reprehensible shitbag less than Hollywood needs another rapist or pedophile. Honestly, if you got enjoyment out of this game, I'm happy for you. God knows I wish I did. But at the very least, can we agree Forces could have, and frankly, should have been so much better than the end result? Because, yeah. So boys, girls, all those in between, make some popcorn, grab a drink, order a pizza, get your tissue box and lotion, and join me on my epic quest to be the 10 quintillionth person on YouTube to rant about a crappy Sonic game. The game opens by going over Eggman's master plan, which they immediately try to trick you into believing will somehow be even more ambitious than anything he has ever done before. Just like how I'm sure the writers want to trick you into believing that they actually cared.
This is my dream come true. With this invention, I can expand the Eggman Empire across the globe and conquer the world!
The boss means business this time.
Yeah, you just keep on telling yourself that. Basically, Eggman wants to take over the world using some powerful being, which he's done about 50 other times at this point. Supposedly, he means business this time, since instead of using some genetically engineered space lizard or a godlike being that becomes a kaiju with the 7 Chaos Emeralds, he instead uses some stupid edgelord who can freeze time. Eggman, I hate to break it to you, but you are a fucking dumb shit. So after that, we go to our first level in the game, Green Hill Zone. Gotta admit, it's a damn fine way to open up the game. The visuals are jaw-dropping, there's a number of alternate pathways to take that lead to several different collectibles, making for some good replay value. There's a truly incredible sense of speed and scale. Overall, it's an awesome, fresh take on a classic Sonic stage, complete with a fantastic rendition of the Green Hill level theme. It kicks Sonic Generations off with a bang. In stark contrast, it kicks Forces off with a dud. It's such a complete downgrade in every single aspect that it's honestly kind of amazing. The level design is below basic, the music is generic techno garbage, and it somehow looks worse here than it did in a game that came out 6 years before this. It tries to be unique with the whole desertification thing, but it just makes me think, really? Eggman's industrial machinery turned this lush place into a desert that quickly? I don't even mind Green Hill Zone being used all that often, but this is just a lousy attempt to replicate Generations. This won't be the last example of this. Afterwards, Infinite introduces himself to Sonic along with Chaos, Metal Sonic, and that one bad guy from Lost World whom nobody remembers or gives two shits about. They ran out of villains that people actually recognize, so I'm guessing that they had to settle with Zavok. Sonic tries to fight Infinite, but he gets beaten up and the game pretends that Sonic died. Sure, yeah, go ahead, fake Sonic's death. It worked out so well the last time you did it! So because Sonic is out of the picture, and I guess all other life forms on the fucking planet are worthless, including Sonic's friends, Eggman takes over the whole planet in just a few months. At this point, the game introduces its main selling point with the custom character creator. I'll admit that I do actually kinda like this aspect of the game. It's nothing too special as far as character creators go, but you've got a fair amount of options to choose what species your character is, and what clothes they wear. It's mostly just cosmetic stuff, but the species you choose does give you an extra gameplay attribute, even if it is super minimal. Throughout the game, you unlock more clothing options and weapons by just playing normally. Imagine that, a video game released in the late 2010s where you earn different cosmetic items by playing the goddamn game without some exploitive loot box shit. Congratulations EA, Activision, and Blizzard, your business practices are so deplorable, Sonic Forces of all video games handles cosmetic items far better than you guys do. If nothing else, this aspect of the game at least feels like solid groundwork for something potentially better. If this concept was brought into any future 3D Sonic titles with a bit of tweaking and more content added onto it, I wouldn't mind. The character I made is a female bird. Her name is Flip. She is God's most evil, unholy mistake, but while the character creator is decent, sadly the custom character sucks dick to actually play as. Take modern Sonic, give the homing attack a delay, add on multiple different types of gun where only one is actually viable, remove any boost ability, and that's basically the custom character. It boggles my mind how somebody designing this game thought the custom character playing like this was acceptable, when it's just a clone of modern Sonic that's objectively worse to play as in every way possible. But on the plus side, you can use a gun! That totally justifies playing as a character who feels this sluggish to control. All that playing as the custom character achieves is making me just want to play as modern Sonic, but even he sucks in this game too. I know 3D Sonic has always been kinda spotty with the controls, but in my opinion at least, the more loose feel of the boost titles worked really well in conjunction with the style of game they were built as. The stages, while linear point A to point B Sonic fare, provided a good number of instances where the loose feel and momentum worked wondrously for the frequent actions and movement. I know there's a subset of people who don't exactly like how the boost titles control, and that's fine. But my point is that it fits with the style of game, and altering it would just make the title feel a whole lot worse to play. Guess what Forces did? It almost plays like the other boost titles, but it feels off. It's like they tried to tighten up how the game plays to make the player feel more in control, but I just found it to be really stiff. You don't pick up forward momentum as smoothly as you do in past titles, and this even leads to slower paced platforming segments feeling sluggish. It's not unplayable, but it's not what I'd categorize as fun. Maybe if you have a fetish for pain, but it's not even painful enough for such person to draw a whole lot of pleasure out of the experience, so you're still shit out of luck. Anyways though, the first stage where you play as the custom character is... Chemical Plant. Seriously, the first levels in Generations and Forces being the same is one thing, but the same second level too? I get that Generations is one of, like, 3 Sonic games from the past decade that people actually liked, but this is just ridiculous. I'll at least give credit that this version of Chemical Plant has a unique color palette, and I actually do really like the more dirty aesthetic here, but it still suffers from all the same issues as Green Hill, with the level design being flat, boring, and mindless. The whole game already comes off as an inferior Generations clone, but just straight up recycling stages only makes me want to play through Generations again while burning the Forces disc with a blowtorch. Unfortunately, I'm a big dummy idiot who bought the game on the PlayStation Store, so I'm stuck with this turd in my library for the rest of my life. I guess it's a step above owning the Quiet Man, but so is driving 90 miles per hour on the highway with no windshield and a hailstorm as the hail painfully tears your body to pieces. I wouldn't recommend doing that, and I also wouldn't recommend buying Forces. On the topic of recycling crap from Generations while doing it a whole lot worse, Classic Sonic is AIDS. Full-blown AIDS. For as much as it tries to replicate the classic Sonic gameplay from the Genesis games Generations and Mania, which came out a few months prior to Forces, it's awful at it! Not only does jumping feel stiff to the point of discomfort, but the overall game feel is really sluggish. Trying to change the direction you're moving can seriously throw you off, which is especially cumbersome when you're positioning yourself during a jump. I feel like I'm wading my way through maple syrup when even so much as making Classic Sonic move and build up momentum. Let me tell you, if I had $1 for every time I got stuck because this blue little bitch can't run up a ramp without spin dashing or backing up 300 miles so he can pick up his pace, I'd have enough money to never work again, and I could just sit on my ass and make these dumb videos more often. I might actually have a decent upload schedule then. It's especially apparent how abysmal Classic Sonic plays when you compare it to Sonic Mania, which nailed Classic Sonic perfectly and came out earlier the same year that Forces did. Hell, the Generations version of Classic Sonic might not be a perfect recreation of the Genesis titles, but it's still better than this. At least you can get decent momentum with it. Classic Sonic doesn't even have a reason to be a gameplay style considering how superfluous an addition he is to the plot, but we'll get to that later. He's easily the worst part of Forces and just makes me want to play as the other 2 characters again, where I'm then reminded that they still suck sewage and I subsequently want to play any other boost title over this mediocre snooze fest. Those are pretty much my biggest complaints with the game, but believe me, they're far from the only ones. Let's list off all of the others, shall we? Number 1. Boosting. Entire levels, or at the very least large chunks of them, are easily clearable by just holding down that boost button and never letting go. I'll be the first to admit that this is a flaw with all of the boost titles to an extent, more so in the ones where some ignoramus decided to make the meter fill up by collecting rings, but the other games at least attempted to trip you up on occasion if you did spam the ability. The level design in Forces is so mindless that it doesn't even do that much. There's large clusters of enemies all placed together which fill up your boost pretty substantially, so you'll almost never run out of it. I'll give the game credit that collecting rings doesn't affect your boost, but considering how easy it is to fill the meter regardless, I doubt that really makes a difference in the end. Number 2. Dying is inconsequential. For some reason, Forces decided to get rid of extra lives, which I feel is a change made for the worse. I know we live in an era where life systems are pretty much archaic, but at least with Sonic, losing them all would make you have to replay a level or boss. In Forces, you can just play like a stoner who's recovering from wisdom teeth surgery and only got 2 hours of sleep the whole week. Eventually you'll make your way through and not even get that bad a rank. I can recall a number of times where I played like a total goddamn idiot, yet I scraped by with an A rank, if not a B rank. Number 3. Control just randomly taken away. The game has a strange fondness for these scripted in-level cutscenes that have the player do some epic awesome shit. The problem is that they're not awesome, and just completely snatch control away from the player. In the end, they just break whatever semblance of flow that the game somehow managed to scrape together. Number 4. The bosses suck. A lot. They're not the worst bosses in the series, not even close, but god they're boring and forgettable. Metal Sonic and Infinite's bosses are just uninspired copies of the Silver Fight from Generations. The third phase of the final boss is literally just a clone of the Nega-Wisp armor from Colors, which Sonic Team already got called out for doing in Lost World, and all the others are just bland and not really worth talking about. Except for Zavok, where I had trouble doing any damage because apparently you're supposed to wait for him to launch you into the air before you homing attack him. At least that's what I experienced because trying to jump and homing attack him just wouldn't register for me. Pardon me for attempting to do something that works in the literal rest of the game. My bad, I was thinking logically. Clearly there's no room for that with this game. Number 5. An auto-scrolling stage. This is thankfully only one stage, but why? Sonic games are about going as fast as you can to reach the level's endpoint, and that's kinda hard to do when you're stuck at the mercy of a camera that's slow as molasses and lets you only go as fast as the game will arbitrarily let you. I could go on, but I think you get the picture by now. At times, I almost feel myself enjoying the game in sort of a mindless, guilty pleasure sort of way despite its numerous flaws. But every time, it's cut short by the level just coming to a sudden halt. All the stages are so badly paced that they just go by way too fast and don't have a natural endpoint. The levels just kinda stop and leave me wanting something more substantial, which the game unfortunately never provides. Lacking substance is also how I describe the story in this game. Well, among other descriptors like aimless, stupid, and painfully unfunny. But let's avoid rambling on about modern-day Simpsons and Family Guy. The plot is such a mess, like, my god. I won't act like Sonic has ever been a series home to potent themes or nuanced writing or anything of the sort, but the story in Forces does so much to get on my bad side that it honestly blows my mind. For one, is it too much to ask for any basic surface-level understanding of continuity from past games? I'd understand if the game was a reboot to the series, but unless I missed something or my memory has the longevity of 99% of internet memes, that ain't the case. Forces seems to have a bizarre issue where it acknowledges that past games are canon, but it doesn't exactly understand what happened in said games. It pretty much confirms that Generations happened, with modern Sonic commenting on how he's met classic Sonic before, but that classic Sonic was a younger version of modern Sonic from the past, while in Forces he's from another dimension and the game acts like they're the same character. Also, Sonic Adventure is clearly canon because Chaos quote-unquote shows up and Sonic recognizes him, yet the game seems to completely disregard Tails' character arc of learning to be independent and fight for himself, because he cowers like a little bitch and needs classic Sonic to save his stupid behind. The game disregards that Tails not only learned to be above this, but he even fought a stronger version of Chaos in the game before his character arc even concluded. I know there's probably that one person who thinks I'm crazy for making a big deal about contradictions to the story of Sonic Adventure of all games, and they're probably 100% correct, but still, it just makes Forces all the more of a slap in the face. Tails being badly written is nothing new, his character honestly has been degrading over the years, but this is just inexcusable. He's worthless here. Speaking of worthless characters who suck, everyone else! I'd really like to know what's even the point of wasting time with all of Sonic's friends in this game when they literally contribute nothing of substance. Apparently they're so worthless that Sonic getting incapacitated gives Eggman all that he needs to conquer the planet in the span of a few months, and nobody was useful enough to actually stop it. Literally every character in the Resistance is fully capable of doing something to fight Eggman, especially since they're all playable in at least one game in the franchise. But the only time they actually do something is near the end of the game when there's some large-scale battle. Unfortunately, you don't see it happen on screen, and because we live in a pics/video or it didn't happen kind of society, by default, that didn't actually happen going off that flawless logic. Oh wait, my mistake, Sonic's friends actually do make contributions. And those contributions are barking pointless exposition over radio comms telling you stuff that's happening, I guess. It reminds me of the final boss of Generations. You know, the single worst thing about that game? I play video games to tune out the dumb shit my family's always shouting downstairs, so I'd rather not have the game reflect reality in that way, thank you very much. I don't even get why Classic Sonic is here other than to half-heartedly tie Forces and Mania together, considering all his contributions to this game are completely worthless. If you just completely cut Classic Sonic out of Forces, you'd lose nothing at all. In fact, the game would probably be better for it. They also try to give a personality and character arc to the custom protagonist, but the final result is half-hearted and comes off as an afterthought, even compared to everything else. The actual character part of the custom character is basically non-existent and is just there for the sake of it. There's this thing about Infinite destroying Flip the Bird's home, her cowering in the corner while he does so, and the whole rest of the game I think involves her becoming a hero and ultimately helping Sonic stop Infinite. I talk about this more, but I don't want to be the one who puts more thought into critiquing this self-insert character than Sonic Team clearly put into fleshing her out, so fuck it. She's boring. And stupid. And worthless. It feels like they wanted to do more with Flip the Bird than just making her a blank slate, but they didn't really do enough to actually flesh her out. Instead, she's stuck in some awkward middle ground where she's more than a bland template, but less than an actual character. To be fair though, Flip isn't the worst character in the game. No. That honor goes to Infinite. Pretty much his entire character is gloating about how he's so strong and how Sonic's so weak because of his friends, despite the fact that Infinite is a pussy-ass bitch who gets his ass handed to him every time he gets into a fight with Sonic. You know what he reminds me of? A stereotypical internet douchebag. The kind that use autism as an insult, have yet to develop a sense of humor beyond being racist and sexist, and can talk shit in Twitter replies and YouTube comments for days thinking they're so badass, yet everyone around them just wants them to shut the fuck up and go away. Yeah, that's the kind of vibe that Infinite gives off. They tried to make him this cool, edgy secondary antagonist, but they failed miserably. Sonic's okay, I guess, and Eggman as usual is definitely the most entertaining thing about the plot, but his screen time is lacking this time around, and the writing doesn't really do him any favors. It really kinda sucks seeing the writing quality of mainline 3D Sonic just gradually get worse and worse after Unleashed. That game honestly nailed everything that I feel works for a 3D Sonic story, striking a good balance between the more plot-heavy games from the past and the comedy-focused games afterwards. It's not high art, but it doesn't need to be. It's just fun and charming, and for Sonic, that's all I ask for. Sucks that apparently that's too much to ask for because the plot of Colors is way too focused around jokes that really don't hold up nearly as well to me now as they did all those years ago. The plot to Generations is there. The plot to Lost World is lame, and the plot to Forces is just so goddamn sad to see. The game feels like it's constantly trying to be dramatic to the point where it's more laughable than anything. The dialogue is written in a manner where it feels like every character's line is trying to be heavy and hard-hitting, except it was written by a guy smashing his head on a keyboard. To be fair, it did result in my new favorite line of dialogue from any game ever made.
None of this is good, Vector. That's why it's called war.
If anyone watching this video ever finds the person who wrote that line, I want you to give that writer all the Oscars and the Emmys. Aside from that one gem, the rest is just cringeworthy, and I'm pretty sure it made me vomit out all the contents of my stomach during every play session I had with this turd. The whole time, it comes off like a parody of a dramatic war movie that you'd see in a cartoon that's played strictly for comedy. Except you're actually supposed to take this seriously, but you just can't. can't! Eggman has some plan to use the sun to destroy the resistance on Earth, despite the fact that he'd probably die too, and I'm pretty sure the sun being that close to Earth would vaporize the whole damn planet. I'd maybe try to examine the plot on a deeper level, but I just don't care enough to do so. Sonic's friends are annoying and worthless, Eggman's plan is ridiculous even for Sonic standards, and the new characters are just awful. Don't blame me for all that stuff making me mentally clock out. So yeah, Sonic Forces. I didn't like it very much. I imagine to some people I probably came off as treating this game like the worst thing ever throughout most of the review, but more than anything, it just really let me down and did pretty much nothing for me at all. With other bad or flawed Sonic games, they were at least attempting something new, and all their problems came from the basic premise being rough and unpolished. Forces, on the other hand, takes a gameplay style, hell, 2 of them they've gotten right multiple times before and still fucked it up. Honestly, that's harder for me to forgive. Underneath all the bullshit, there is a blueprint for a potentially good or even great Sonic game. It's at least fine on a basic functionality level. I never ran into any major bugs or glitches, so automatically it's better than some of the more notoriously awful Sonic games. Not to mention, Forces looks mostly great, and aside from a few exceptions, the soundtrack's pretty alright. I may have hated playing the game, but I guess I at least enjoyed looking at it. There is a DLC called Episode Shadow, which I'll admit is marginally better than the base game, but it's still bogged down by all of the problems still present in the gameplay to Forces. Plus, it's only 3 stages long, so either way, it wouldn't even have that much of an impact on the base game in the first place. I can't exactly say I'm optimistic about the future of 3D Sonic after playing this mess. I mean, can you blame me when it came out months after a fan game got turned into an official Sonic title, and turned out infinitely better than the mega blockbuster it was leading up to? I know there's a lot of vitriol surrounding Sonic as a whole, and I don't like the idea of me possibly contributing more to that, but this is all just how I feel regarding this game. It's gonna take something really good for 3D Sonic to enter my good graces again. I can only hope that that will eventually happen. It'd be a real shame if it didn't.